Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper and are equally relevant for your UPSC preparations. Articles dated 20th July 2022 are listed on the screen and the time stamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1st and talks about the rising number of people, Indians, who are giving up their citizenship. And as per the Ministry of Home Affairs, over 1.6 lakh Indians gave up their Indian citizenship last year. And this is one of the highest in the past 5 years according to the ministry. The highest share of people who gave up the Indian citizenship went to United States of America. Now, from the perspective of UPSC examination, citizenship is important both from the prelims as well as mains perspective under the heading of Indian polity and constitution. After this discussion, you will be in a position to know about reasons behind the rising of giving up of Indian citizenship, what are the basic provisions of citizenship, what are the bases on which a citizen can be denied the Indian citizenship, and what amendments have been conducted in the Citizenship Act 1955 of India. After the discussion, you will also be in a position to answer these two important prelims practice related questions and also one of the mains practice related question with respect to the Indian citizenship. So let's begin the discussion. Now the question is why Indians are giving up their citizenship to the government. The first one is when data was collected by the Ministry of Home Affairs, it was found that most of the respondents have not stated one static reason and they have hidden their basic reason for giving up the Indian citizenship. However, based on the different analysis, government has found out the following important reasons behind the giving up of Indian citizenship. The topmost reason being, of course, the changing or the shifting of personal, professional and the residential priority of Indian people. Now, people of India are shifting towards different regions across the globe. They are looking for better economic opportunities as well as better residential localities. So in this regard, they are trying to move to the other countries, and once they find out a better place to live, they give up Indian citizenship. The second one is the distress migration. It may be due to ethnic clashes between the majority and the minority. It may be due to the ethnic violence or maybe the other way around. It is followed by the environmental concerns. So we have issues like climate change. We have frequent or the frequency of disasters which have been against the human settlements in the country. So people are now moving out of the country in order to stay safe. Then we have the avenues of golden visas. There are certain countries smaller in size, however, provide the golden visas in which a person can pay a very heavy amount of money to get priority in terms of investment opportunities, and with this means that person can get a lifetime visa to stay in that country. Such kind of lucrative provisions have attracted Indians to move to the other countries and stay there as their particular citizens. Then comes the avoiding criminal arrest. When a person leaves India and try to get the citizenship of the other country, it has been observed that they are looking into the other country in order to avoid the criminal arrest or the subjugation of Indian law on their criminal act. And lastly is the passport score. Indian passport score has never been very good. India normally has a passport ranking as per the Henley passport ranking around 80s. And that is the reason why people who are looking for better passport opportunity, the people who are looking for stronger passport avenues so that they can travel the world for their specific socio-economic political reasons, are looking for other nations where passport score is very high. Now let's go into the basics. What is citizenship? Now, citizenship, for better understanding, is nothing but a relationship between an individual and the state. So it is not a relationship between the government and a group of people. It is always a relationship between the government and an individual person. So I, as a person of India, I as an individual is a citizen of India, but my family, my colleagues, or maybe my group or a society may not be a particular citizen with respect to this relationship on the state. And in this relationship, an individual owes allegiance, and in this return, they are provided protection from the state, from the enemy nations. So if a person who is an Indian citizen will be provided protection against the attack by the foreign nations. It differentiates between the citizens and the aliens. So a person who is a citizen will be provided more opportunities with respect to the civil as well as political rights vis-a-vis the aliens. And aliens here simply means the people who are non-citizens but living in India. Historically, India has always endorsed the favoring of citizenship on the basis of birth, and that is one of the reasons that first condition mentioned in the Citizenship Act 1955 also lays down that Indian citizenship can be acquired on the basis of birth. Now, as far as constitutional provisions are concerned, first and foremost, Part 2 of Indian Constitution deals with the concept of citizenship. Citizenship in India comes under the Union list, that is, exclusive jurisdiction of the Indian Parliament, and state has no role at all in the determination of Indian citizenship, unlike the United States where they have the concept of dual citizenship. Constitution also does not define what a citizen is. However, there are certain basic entitlements provisions which are mentioned between Article 5 to Article 11. India follows the concept of single citizenship. So if a person has two citizenship, or if the person possesses a citizenship of India along with the citizenship of any other country, he or she have to give up one of those important citizenship. Otherwise, the citizenship of India will be nullified. Article 11 empowers the Parliament to make laws on any provision with respect to the acquisition or the termination of citizenship or any other matter relating to it. And enjoying the power given in Article 11, Indian government, Indian Parliament enacted the Citizenship Act 1955, which provides the acquisition of Indian citizenship on the basis of following 5 reasons. The first one is, of course, the birth. So a person who is born in India and their parents were also born in India can get the citizenship on the basis of birth. The second one is registration, which means a person who has stayed in India in a continuous manner for 7 years prior to the application, or a person who has been married to an Indian citizen who was staying in India for more than 7 years and have the citizenship document. And the third condition, a minor to the Indian citizen can also register for the citizenship. Then comes the point of descent. A person who does not hold any other nation's passport and registered himself or herself on any of the Indian consulate outside India can get the Indian citizenship on the basis of descent if they prove that their ancestors belong to Indian citizenship. The fourth one is the process of naturalization, which means that 12 years of continuous residence in India can be taken for the consideration. If a person renounces the citizenship of the other nation and then apply for Indian citizenship, if they are working in the service to the Indian government, they can apply. They have a very good character or they have adequate knowledge of the languages in the 8th schedule. However, all these conditions are subjected to the approval of the central government. And the last one is, if India acquires any foreign territory and makes that foreign territory to be Indian territory, the people who are living in that territory will automatically become the citizen of India. We have a precedence, for example, the Pondicherry. The people who were living in Pondicherry became Indian citizen after French gave up their colonial power and Pondicherry was ceded to India. As far as Article 5 to 11 are concerned, so these are the important articles and their respective explanation. So from Article 5 to Article 8, all these articles were only important till the passage of Citizenship Act. So Article 5 provides the citizenship to those people who were there at the time of commencement of the Constitution. All other three relate to the people who were either staying in Pakistan, came from Pakistan, or have Indian origin. Article 9 provides for a person to acquire the citizenship of a foreign state, but if that is the case, that person will not remain a citizen of India. Then Article 10 provides for the continuation of the rights of Indian citizenship, and Article 11 that we have already discussed provide the power to the Parliament to make laws on Indian citizenship, after which it was created as Citizenship Act 1955, which was amended recently in 2019. Now, what has happened in 2019 and why there was a controversy? We are not going to be talking about all the important amendments that took place prior to 2019 because that will be out of the context of General Studies paper 2. So, Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 was passed with the following provision. The Act provides and permits the member of 6 communities, especially the religious communities of Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsis and Christian coming from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan. So what has been excluded? The exclusion is the Muslim population living in Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. Now why they were excluded? According to the government statement, they were excluded because first they make the majority in these particular nations. Secondly, they are not subjected to the ethnic clashes or ethnic cleansing. These people who are living in India or have arrived in India before the December 14, 2014, they can get Indian citizenship on the condition that they require to produce a naturalization certificate that they have stayed in India for over 6 years. Earlier it was 11 years. Then the Act also exempted these people from the Passport Act and the Foreigners Act that has created the provision of excluding or punishing these people if they come as an illegal migrant to India. However, the Act also provides certain exemptions. The provision of this Act 2019 will not be applied to the areas which are tribal in nature and are part of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. And these are the areas which are part of the 6th schedule of the Constitution. The same Act will not apply to the inner line areas which requires inner line permit as per the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation during the British colonial period. So these two areas will be excluded from the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. Apart from these, the Act also provides that government can cancel registration of overseas citizens of India on the following grounds. So if a person having OCI certificate or Overseas Citizens of India certificate is found to have conducted a fraud or is sentenced to the imprisonment of 2 or more years, or if found to be in the interest of India's sovereignty or security, can be denied the certification and the registration. Now, because of the two controversy, the first one being that why a particular religion and why particular countries are being entitled for these benefit was questionable. The second one was that the OCIs which were subjected to certain legal breakdown may further be victimized by the authorities on the breaking down of basic rules. So these were the two important criticisms. However, apart from these, a person in India can lose or can be denied citizenship on the following 3 points. The first one is if that person renounces the citizenship on his or her own. This is one of the reasons which was mentioned in the article that we have discussed from the newspaper. So number of people who have renounced their citizenship is 1.6 lakh this year, which is highest in the last 5 years. But here the renunciation of a person will also debar their children for the future application for the citizenship. So if a father has renounced the citizenship, his children will not be subjected to the registration in the future. However, this is not applicable in the case of war. The second one is the termination. So if a person acquires the citizenship of the other country, his citizenship to India will be terminated. And the third one is the deprivation. In the case of fraud, disloyalty to the constitution, trading any information, espionage with the enemy nation, or if a person is imprisoned in the other country, or they have been residing outside India for more than 7 years. All these provisions will help the government of India to deprive a person from the citizenship to India. With this discussion in place, now again I will leave you with these questions to solve. So solve these questions and try to put your answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1st and talks about the death of a deputy superintendent police belonging to the state of Haryana recently. The context says recently, Deputy Superintendent of Police in Haryana was killed by a truck which was carrying the illegally mined stones. Now this has again bring in forefront the issue of illegal mining across India, the issue with respect to the law and order failure in order to control the mining in the country, as well as the black marketing of minerals and the environmental exploitation of the country. With respect to the syllabus mapping, this is important under the governance issue of your General Studies paper 2, as well as important under General Studies paper 3 with respect to the environmental concerns. We are going to look into the importance of mining in the country and how this mining should be undertaken in order to provide the sustainable development of the country. Now the first point is, what causes the illegal mining in the country, which has been one of the reasons why police was so active across the states to control this menace. The first one is that there is lack of coordination within the Ministry of Environment and its various departments. For instance, the Department of Forest and Department of Environment. There is also a lack of coordination between different ministries such as Ministry of Coal, with respect to the ministry belonging to the iron ore, or the ministry which actually supports the law and order situation. And this has actually led to the illegality and the ecological damage across the nation. We have the issue of lack of timely checks by the Indian Bureau of Mines in controlling and bringing down the cases of illegal mining. Most of the states do not have better boundary for the protected areas or the mineral-led areas. These boundaries belonging to the leased out areas for the mines have not clearly been defined. For instance, the government actually gave the license for 10 hectares of mining, and ultimately it ended up mining to the 12 hectares or even the 13 to 14 hectares of land, in which the access actually fall into the illegal category. The next one is lack of timely renewal of the mining licenses. So if a particular company is looking for the renewal of their license, and if the bureaucracy does not support in bringing that kind of licenses on time, the company is more likely to fall in the practice of illegal mining because they are subjected to the different conditions in the market. Then comes the responsibility of the mine owners themselves, because they do not apply in time. If they apply on time, they do not follow the orders of the regulatory authorities, and sometimes it is not even processed on the time. The demand of cheaper minerals across the world has provided the ample illegal avenues for the companies to go for illegal minings, especially when a large company is focusing on the local area middlemen or goons who are practicing the illegal mining for providing the supply of minerals. Then we have the poor monitoring system at the state level, because most of the time security agencies are not proactive in controlling the illegal minings, and if they do, such kind of unfortunate incidents takes place. And ultimately we have the last cause, which is the collusive corruption between the miners and the bureaucrats or the ministers. As per the statistics or the current status, Himachal Pradesh has over 8,500 cases of illegal mining which were registered in 2017. In the state of Goa, 90 mines were functioning without any mandatory permission of National Board of Wildlife. Now, Goa falls in a very sensitive zone of Western Ghats. Similarly, there was over 22,000 crores of illegal mining in the state of Jharkhand, over 60,000 crore in the state of Odisha. As many as 187 mines which were leased out in Odisha have no environmental clearances or forest clearances. So all these examples simply proves that the mining status in the country is going through the unorganized manner and unorganized practices that has ultimately led to the degradation of the environment, economic structure, revenue earning of the government and the law and order. Now in this regard, what government has done? Government has provided various initiatives. The first one is the mining surveillance system, came in 2016. It is a satellite based monitoring system in which an alarm system is there which provides the warning if there is an illegal mining going on. Government has also created the mining tenement system where the computerization and the automation system has been put in place which provides the data with respect to mining and geology across the nation. Drone-led monitoring and secret checks and balances with random checks and raids have become a frequent task to the authorities. In 2017, Supreme Court has directed various companies and leaseholders in the mining sector that if they go for illegal extraction of the minerals, they will pay a compensation equivalent to the 100% to the value of the minerals to the government. However, this provision has widely been misused by the miners. It's like you pay and you do the illegal thing. Now coming to the important side effects or coming to the important negative consequences of illegal mining in India. First, we'll talk about the impact of underground mining. So the waste that comes out also comes out with the toxic rocks and brings the same to the upper surface. There is a subsidence of the mine, mines get collapsed, people die. There is a damage to the buildings, it might also create the tectonic effect. There is the lowering down of the water table, and ultimately there are the release of the gases causing the greenhouse emission. If we talk about the strip mining, the first one is the destroying of the landscape such as forest, wildlife habitation. It leads to the soil erosion and ultimately lead to the agriculture destruction. The sediments which come from the mining have the harmful chemical which pollutes the waterway and ultimately hurts the marine life. Sometimes the clogging of the sediments also lead to the storing of water and the flooding situation in the nearby area. The chemical contamination also leads with the similar manner, and this mining also creates dust pollution and the noise pollution in the nearby areas, especially hurt the people in their breathing system. Then comes the common health impact on such illegal mining activities. See, the point is that the people who are going for the illegal mining do not follow any provision with respect to the sound pollution, dust pollution, water pollution or others. They do not have any provisions with respect to the following of the rules that will not hurt the people living in the surrounding. So the important problems caused by such mining is pneumoconiosis. The second one is cardiopulmonary disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, hypertension, lung disease and kidney disease. Most of them are associated with the inhaling of the harmful toxic dust. Then there are also the consumption of arsenic, fluoride, mercury and selenium going through the water they are consuming. Then we have the mine collapse which kills hundreds of people every year. And the example for this would be that in 2006 China, a mine was collapsed, which killed almost 4,700 people. The same kind of incidents are already being reported across India with respect to the red mining and the areas, especially in the northeastern states. So the question is, what should be done? The first one is that there should be more coordination between the state government as well as the Indian Bureau of Mines. They should bring us dedicated rules and regulations with respect to each and every mineral which is being illegally mined. The second one is that there should be a mine mapping at national level, state level, as well as the district level for better program implementation. There should be a computerized way bridge system to track the minerals right from the mine gate to the port to avoid the leakages. Let's say from the mine a particular truck is leaving and the truck is going through the organized license, and that organized license provide the truck to carry, let's say, 10 tons or 20 tons of a particular mineral. If the truck reaches the port or the coastal area and they have the same amount of minerals, then they should be allowed to upload the minerals for export. If not, they should be punished, because it will help in avoiding the leakages. The second one is the railway needs to have a strict system for avoiding the illegal mining. Port authorities should also have their own checks and balances at dockyards. Separate cadre of mining security force on the lines of CISF or CRPF can be created at the state and the national level. And lastly, government and the other stakeholders should protect the rights of the tribal people in order to bring the inclusive mining across the nation, which will also help in balancing the economic expansion and social development of the tribal people. With respect to the discussion that we have conducted, you have the following practice question. Identify various challenges faced through the illegal mining in India. List out the efforts that have been taken by various authorities in this regard. You should write the answer within 250 word limit. With this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page 14th, that is the business page of the Hindu newspaper, and talks about that there is a concern with respect to states like Punjab and Goa, which are under the most stress with respect to the poor allocation under the GST Compensation Act. Now, as per the independent research conducted by the Revenue Assessment for GST in India, GST compensation in the last 5 years has left many states including Punjab, Goa and Maharashtra, which are facing the revenue stress now. Now, as far as syllabus mapping is concerned, so GST as a law could be put up in your General Studies paper 2, and provisions with respect to revenue and the budgeting provisions under GST can be asked with respect to GS paper 3. After the discussion of this topic, you will be in a position to understand and solve this question easily. So let's go with how this shortfall has been there for a while. You all are aware that because of the COVID-19 crisis, as there was a national lockdown, the economic and the commercial activity was completely shut down. And because of that, the revenue generation to the government went into the negative stage. Now, as per the GST Compensation Act, central government was under the mandatory provision to provide the compensation to the states with respect to their shortfall in the domestic revenue collection. Now, if we go through the following table, we have taken up the important shortfall which were registered by the top states across the country. You will find that the states such as Gujarat, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Punjab, or even the Jammu Kashmir Union Territory are showing a very high shortfall with respect to GST collection. When you compare this with the northeastern state, yes, the ratio of these states is quite high. The reason was simple, that most of these states are highly industrialized. When highly industrialized states got the setback with respect to the COVID-19 issues, Yes, these states required the highest support from the government. And as you can observe that most of these states have shown a very high compensation requirement in the past 2 years, that is 2020 and 2021. This data is based on the observation till October 2021 according to the Ministry of Finance. Now the question is why such compensation has been there and why the states are raising voice time and again. Now let us revise the GST Compensation Act once again. Now GST Compensation Act was passed along with the GST Act in 2017. So it is a statutory provision first of all. It is backed by the parliamentary law. So it guarantees state government that they will be paid the compensation for any loss of revenue in their first 5 years, which ended this year. So till the financial year of 2022, states which are not getting enough revenue generation will be compensated by the center. And for this compensation, center will include a specific cess which will be levied on a sin and luxury goods. Now the assumption was that, which was also the part of the act, says that states across the country were expected to grow on their revenue at 14% per annum. So if today the state has earned, let's say 100 crore of revenue, the next year they will earn 114 crore of revenue. But if the state fails to do this kind of collection, which is based on the parameter of 2015 and 16, if they miss any such target of 14% year by year, center is going to pay the compensation because the states have agreed to be part of one nation, one tax regime. Now, from where the money will come? The money will come from the cess which will be imposed on, let's say, sin and luxury goods such as pan masala, cigarettes, tobacco products, aerated water, caffeinated beverages, coal, or even the high-end passenger motor vehicle. Now, the point that should be noted here is that cess which is collected and any such amount as may be recommended by the GST Council would be credited to a particular fund, which is the compensation fund. And out of the compensation fund, money is paid to the particular state. The money that we have seen in this table. So the total money paid by the government last year was paid from the same compensation fund made under this particular act. Now, as far as payment is concerned, the payment comes from the compensation cess, and this is paid at every 2 months period. However, because of the COVID crisis, this could not continue for long. The final authority and the decision making authority with respect to the compensation would be the GST Council under Article 279A of the Constitution. Now, still there are many concerns with the states. The first one is, because of the COVID-19 crisis, there was a gap of 3 lakh crore rupees that should be there with respect to the 14% growth all the states are assumed to achieve. So there was a shortfall, and this shortfall was not compensated completely by the center because center itself was not able to incur or was not able to collect a very high tax revenue. If the COVID is there for the state, the same COVID is there for the center as well. And printing or the deficit financing is a not right idea because it will ultimately lead to the inflationary pressure. The second one was the economic slowdown. When states were not compensated by the center, so they did not have money for the further capital investment. Lower capital investment ultimately lead to the lower economic growth. There was a decreasing center devolution, which according to many states have also led to the falling of centers proportion or center's share in the centrally sponsored scheme, because see, center does not have more money because of the COVID crisis, so they were not able to provide more money to the states on central sponsored scheme, but state have to meet their welfare criteria. So again states were under pressure. And the last one was it provided a setback to the fiscal federalism in the country. So whatever we have learned so far will help you to solve this particular question and will give you a clear picture about that why the states are actually raising voice and why they are under pressure. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page 6, that is the editorial page of the Hindu newspaper, and talks about the recent development of the Constitution of Chile. Chile is one of the country in the western part of South American continent. And recently they have brought a good example of constitutionalism that could be followed by other nations as well. Now, from the perspective of UPSC, in the mains examination, UPSC can ask questions with respect to the constitutionalism, and at some places you can also quote the example of Chile's recent constitutional development. So what we are going to discuss today, we'll talk about the development of constitutionalism in the international political system, and we will also take the best practices of Chile with respect to the constitutional development. So let's see how we have practiced the constitutionalism till now. Before that, let's look into the definition of constitutionalism. So according to the political theorist John Locke, constitutionalism is an idea, where the government should be legally limited. See, the word is limited. Government should not be functioning in an unlimited or in an extortion manner. They should have a power, but that power should be legally limited and should be subjected to the legitimacy. They should have the authority that should be depending on the limitation. And all these limitations should come from the working of constitution. So constitutionalism simply means that everything is under the provision of the constitution. No authority, no person, no institution is over and above the constitution. And constitution as of now has developed in a manner which focus on more the human development rather than just the political development. Now, how we have achieved from political development to the human development through the constitutionalism is going to be the part of today's discussion. Now, what happened in the first half of 20th century? The entire globe was going through the world wars. New nations were being created. Decolonization was there, which was followed, which had the bitter history of new colonialism. Now, when the world was going through the new nation creation, India is also one of them, there were constitutional development. But the new countries were actually borrowing the provisions coming from the United States of America, which is one of the best example of constitutional development and the democratic principles. So what countries followed, including the country like India, they have borrowed the provisions like liberty, Bill of Rights, rule of law, independent judiciary and whatnot. But because of these borrowing points, they actually ignore the social concept or the social question and the equitable access to the material and resources by the people. So pro-people constitutional development was not there. However, things started changing. And even in India also, we see that by the time of 1970s, socialism became an important part of constitutional development. So, starting 1980s, socialism took the front seat. And now the constitutional developments which were taking place across the world were taking on the basis of socio-economic rights of the citizens. So, they talk about right to housing, right to education, right to health and whatnot. The best example here could be the development of constitution in South Africa, which has taken their learning from the apartheid incident. This was developed in 1996. The another development which started from the 1980s was that there was a recognition that the complexities of the governance is not a one institution, one person thing. It requires a set of institutions which are actually independent and can work without the pressure from legislation and the executive. So, an institution which functions without the harassment of the legislation and the execution or the executive can work more in an integrated manner. They will have more integrity, they will have more honesty, and they will work towards the development of human. In the similar manner, nations across the world created information commissions, they created human rights commissions and also the electoral commissions. After the institutional integrity, so first we started from the social integrity, socio-economic rights, then we gradually moved towards the institutional integrity, and in 2010 and the decade after that, there was a more and substantive participation of people in the constitutional development. Previously, we were not focusing on how people can actually bring the constitutional development at their own. But now, there were the constitutional development, let's say the example of Kenya, where people actually came forward through the mandate and participated in the lawmaking. The same thing now applies to many other countries, and the best example in the article was given from the perspective of Chile constitution. Now, what can we learn from Chilean constitution? The first thing is that now the constitutional development in this area is being done by the people directly. For instance, the constitutional development in India was not completely under the directed elected people. The second best thing is that 51% of the Constituent Assembly members were women, which is unprecedented. 17 seats were reserved for the indigenous people, the same which we follow in India with respect to the tribal people. Even the sexual minorities like LGBTQ were represented in the Constitutional Assembly. They focus a lot on the socio-economic rights that we have seen developed in the constitutionalism of 1980s. Then there came the gravity towards the climate crisis. So now constitution are focusing more towards the climate crisis. They are focusing on the international environmental laws, intergenerational equity, which were not present in the American model of constitutional development. So these are the important points that we can learn and can write as an example in your General Studies paper 2. With this discussion, please let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 7 as data point. And according to this article, recent RBI report on the remittances says that remittances arriving to India have seen the rising trend, which is a good sign for the balance of payment. Now, as far as syllabus mapping is concerned, remittances are important for your General Studies paper 3 in Indian economic development. So you can quote such kind of provisions, such kind of improvement in your answer. Then in the prelim examination, trends of remittances could be asked. So as far as remittances in the country is concerned, so first of all, what is a remittance? Remittance is the money which is sent through the legal means by the non-resident to the resident through economic channels. So as per the Ministry of External Affairs, there are about 13.4 million, that is 1.34 crore people of non-resident status living across the world from India. And they are working in two different professions. The first one is blue collared, mostly living in Gulf countries. People who are working in the construction sector, working as a labor. And the second one are the white collar worker going to the US and the EU. They are working in the production sector, IT sector and others. The benefits that India gets from the remittances is that we have a good balance of payment, because as you know that remittances are part of current account to the balance of payment. So more remittances means better balancing power to India and lesser borrowing from the outer agencies. It also enhances India's soft power with respect to the other nation. There is a cultural integration with Indians going to the other countries and sharing the culture. We also have a better economic dependence with the other countries. Now, what are the basic highlights of these reports? The report of RBI says that UAE, United Arab Emirates, United States and Saudi Arab are the top 3 destinations for Indian migrants to go and work. However, with respect to the remittances, the things are different. Now, what we have seen is that India has received the total remittances, which is the largest in the world, at $87 billion. And this $87 billion contributes around 4% to India's GDP. Now, there is a quantum shift as far as composition of the remittances are concerned. Previously, Gulf countries like UAE, Saudi Arab, Iran, Iraq were the major contributor. But the trend has changed. From 2016-17 till 2021, what we have seen that the contribution of the Gulf countries have reduced from 50% of the total remittances to the 30%. Now, despite this, India's overall remittances has not reduced. Why? Because the falling share of Gulf countries was taken over by the countries such as US, UK or even Singapore, which have increased their remittances in 2020-21. As far as top 5 nations receiving the remittances are concerned in absolute value, it is India, China, Mexico, Philippines and Egypt. All of them are in the different stages of being developing. As far as countries with respect to the highest remittances percentage of their GDP, so it is the Tonga, Lebanon, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and El Salvador. They receive a very high proportion of their GDP with respect to the remittances. As far as sources are concerned, so from where money is coming to India, the highest share now coming from the United States, that has surpassed the UAE as a top source of remittances to India and account 23% of the total remittances in 2021. UAE is then followed by UK, Singapore and Saudi Arabia. As far as top destinations are concerned, so Maharashtra has surpassed Kerala to become the top destination of receiving the remittances in India, followed by Kerala and Tamil Nadu. With this discussion in place, now I am leaving you with a practice question. So read this question carefully and try to answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 7 and talks about the issue of inner party democracy in India and its comparison with the United Kingdom model. Now, the ousting of Boris Johnson, that is the leader of British Conservative Party and the ex-Prime Minister of Britain, is the latest round of coup, which is amounted by the party's MP and their important role to get rid of their political leader whenever they becomes a liability to the electoral or the political establishment. Now, United Kingdom has a very strong lobby of Member of Parliament, where even the Prime Minister does not hold the greatest power with respect to the removal or staying as a Prime Minister. So in this respect, before going into the inner party democracy, we will look into and compare the British system and the Indian system with respect to the democracy and the power of the Member of Parliament. Now, in British system, Prime Minister has to be able to maintain the confidence of his own backbenchers all the times. Now, the point is, in British system, Prime Minister is in always a state of confusion whether he or she enjoys the confidence of his own Member of Parliament or not. On the other hand, in India, Indian Prime Minister exercises absolute authority over his or her party. Also, the party members through the anti-defection law. So, the Indian Prime Minister is more powerful with respect to his or her relations to the Member of Parliament. So, if Member of Parliament want to remove the Prime Minister, they cannot do it easily in India. The Member of Parliament in British have the power to question the Prime Minister. There is no such autonomy given in India. On the other hand, we have the British Member of Parliament owes the nomination to the local constituency and not a party leader. So if a Member of Parliament in United Kingdom has certain powers, that powers are enjoyed by the local constituencies and not the political leader. So take this example. In United Kingdom, if a Member of Parliament is elected from a particular constituency, that Member of Parliament will be subjected to the rules, permissions and wishes of the local constituency and not the party leader. On the other hand, in India, as Prime Minister is not chosen by the legislator, Prime Minister is chosen by the party high command, the top leaders of a political party. So, the Member of Parliament have no point of asking anything to the Prime Minister or even questioning the functioning of Prime Minister in India. That is the reason that parliamentary system of Britain is far more superior and advanced with respect to the accountability of the Prime Minister towards the elected representatives or the Member of Parliament. Now, as far as inner party democracy is concerned, so we have already discussed the same on 9th of April 2022. The link to this video is already mentioned in the description box. You can go through that link and go through this important discussion which we have conducted previously. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. Now we come to the last part of today's Daily News Simplified, that is the news in shorts. Now these are the two important articles which were published on page 2 and page 11th of the Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and requires not a detailed analysis from the perspective of UPSC. However, we should have basic understanding of these news articles. So the first one is the Mission Buniyaad. Now where this mission is launched? This mission is launched by the Delhi government in the education sector. It was launched to provide the quality education and help the student to bridge the learning gaps that they have actually possessed during the COVID-induced lockdowns. So during the summer holidays, students were captured from various socio-economic background and they were provided good quality education because in the meanwhile of COVID-induced lockdown, these students were far away from the basic education and there was a high level of learning gaps, and these learning gaps were filled up using the Mission Buniyaad scheme of Delhi government. The scheme is actually functioning under the State Council of Educational Research and Training, and the best thing about this scheme is that according to the government data, there was a 20 to 30% improvement in the literacy and the numeracy skills of the students, which is a good initiative. So where you can utilize this? You can utilize this in your General Studies paper 1 Indian Society. You can use the same in your General Studies paper 2 with respect to the education question. You can use the same in your ethics or even in your essay paper. The second article is that the House panel, which is the Parliamentary Standing Committee, has called for bringing the unified metro rail law. Now, what is the demand? The demand is that there should be a single and comprehensive law that should guide the functioning of metro rail network across the country. As it has been brought by the Parliamentary Standing Committee, the committee was formed under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. The problem is that the current status of the rail management says that there are 3 different laws which are functioning and which are guiding the Indian metro rail. From the perspective of this examination, students are not required to remember the names of these laws. The concern which was highlighted is that the cities like Delhi and Mumbai are far better performing in terms of the efficiency because they have a large number of commuters. On the other hand, smaller cities like Jaipur, Lucknow or Ahmedabad are not performing far better. And they have a low number of commuters and revenue earning. So what they have advised? They have advised to the government to bring less capital intensive alternatives such as Metro Neo or Metro Light, which utilizes the less capital investment, provides the better technology and can easily suit small cities and low ridership across the nation. Now the point is, where can you utilize this thing? You can utilize this under the urbanization of your GS paper 1. As well as the good governance in your GS paper 2 for the mains examination. With this discussion in place, now we come to the question of the day. The answer to yesterday's question of the day was option 2, which means out of the 2 given statement, during judicial custody, the police officer in charge of the case is not allowed to interrogate the suspect without the approval of the court. Today's question of the day says that consider the following statement. There are 2 statements. The first one is all minerals in India and their mining is determined by the central government. The second one is only coal and iron ore are subject to the illegal mining in India. Now read the question carefully and try to answer the question of the day in the comment box. That's all for today's Daily News Simplify. Thank you.